So there's these two fundamental principles that must be understood primarily before you get started on this work, because if these two principles are not understood, you're going to stay stuck no matter what you do, no matter how far you work, and no matter what you think you're going to do as far as grinding and working hard, and that's just not the way this works. This is not about hard work. This is not about efforting. This is in fact just the opposite of that. Hi, my name is Allan Hendrickson, and I've been teaching or coaching or training or however you want to look at it, the law of attraction, the law of creation, law of vibration for the last 12, 13, 14 years. Uh, on and off for the first 5 or 6 years. That's starting about maybe 2010, 2011. And what happened to me is, as a former attorney, I began to notice that although it seemed like to the outside world that things should be going really good for me in my life and that I should be a real happy person, that wasn't my experience of myself, nor was it an experience of my life. And a few circumstances and some things that happened in my life caused the reality that I was living in to completely unfold and fall apart and collapse. And at the time, it was a horrific experience, but in hindsight, of course, now looking back, thank God it happened. And what I've been able to understand or ascertain over the past 15 years, let's call it, is that the most important thing or the biggest thing that's missing for people when they embark on or begin to study or get excited or resonate with wanting to learn about the law of attraction or the law of creation or the law of vibration, whatever you want to call it, is that there's an excitement with this ability, or their soul resonates with the possibility of the chance of being able to actually intentionally or purposely create things that you want for yourself and in your life. And I just want to touch really quickly on why that is. The reason that experience of finding out this information and that it might actually be possible that you can intentionally or deliberately create your life is because there's such a sense or a space or a vibration of fragility on this planet where there's what seems to be total uncertainty on what my future holds for me. And that's a scary way to go through life. That's a scary way to kind of complete your existence. And if you listen in the culture, you can hear the fragility and the uncertainty and the unknowingness of it. And it kind of sounds like no one knows when their time is up. You never know when you're going to die. None of that is true, by the way. You never exit or leave this world until you're ready to leave this world. It's a choice. The fact that people don't understand that, and then there's a common misconception about that, is a completely different conversation. So there's also conversations in the culture when you see people leaving each other. They say, be careful out there, be safe out there. There's this chronic undertow of fear and uncertainty that kind of haunts humanity. Well, one of the things that happens is, so people get it when they get excited to get that underlying fear and bring some certainty to their life. What happens is, as they begin to study this law of attraction or this law of vibration, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of misinformation. And so what happens is they start moving out there and learning a few things intellectually. They begin to feel a little bit better. Their vibration begins to raise a little bit. Some of the resistance falls off of them, and they're feeling in a better position. They're feeling in a better space. And the reason is because their vibration has actually moved up. There's been some enthusiasm. There's been a little bit of excitement. But it doesn't last, because what happens is almost immediately, or old habits of thinking and old patterns of being in the world show up, and they slip right back out of alignment and they go back into their old way of being. And then they look around and they tell their friends, yeah, I've tried the law of attraction, but it doesn't work. Or, yeah, this just something was wrong with it. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm just not cut out to be someone who manifests things on purpose. And there's a whole litany of conversations that come with this, but none of them are true. What is factual and what is true about human beings and this law of attraction is, yes, there is a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of wrong information. And when you don't know the difference between it, and you don't have a compass or a barometer to follow on what's working for you and what's not working for you, you can kind of get lost and get a little bit kind of overwhelmed in all of it. And then as time, what seems to be linear Earth time, goes by and you're still not producing results, and you look in your environment and you don't see any results or any proof of what you've been asking for, you start to get a little bit disappointed and discouraged, and then giving up is right around the corner. So what I've created, or the purpose or the intention of this course, is to give you certainty, because that's what you want. It's pretty rare for somebody to be bold enough to tell somebody what it is that they want, but I'm going to tell you right now what it is that you want. You want certainty. You want a knowingness and a for sureness that you have the ability to take a thought and convert that thought into something that you can experience with your senses, and we'll call that a manifestation. So in this first module here, first of all, I'm super excited to be able to share this information with you. I've shared this with thousands of people and brought a lot of peace of mind, brought a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, and a lot of stuff. So it's a pretty bold statement for someone to tell you what it is that you want, but I'm going to tell you what I've discovered over the last 15 years is missing. And when it gets delivered, it is an extremely powerful, an extremely liberated, an extreme high experience. People experience a lot of relief. It's a if I could make a sound for it, it's like, oh, there's a real relief that comes with getting certainty on how this law of attraction works. And that's what's been missing. And so if you've been taking courses or you've had a coach that you've worked with and you've not had success and it's not been successful, first of all, I don't want you to make that wrong. I want you to be really thankful, because one of the ways to discover and find out how something works is to discover how it doesn't work. And if you look at Thomas Edison, when he invented the light bulb, he finally said at the end, he said, I never really invented it. There was just no other ways to fail. So the light bulb had to come as the next logical step for me. So I want to remind you of something, is that there hasn't been any mistakes. There hasn't been anything wrong. There's nothing bad. There's nothing that's out of order or out of whack here. Everything's happening and culminating just the way it's supposed to, or it wouldn't be happening. So the thing that's been missing, the thing that I've discovered for people that brings a whole bunch of relief and brings a lot of ease and really sets people on their way when they're learning and coming to understand how to make thoughts become things in their life. Because that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about I want to use, or I want to utilize, I want to learn to use the law of attraction. The law of attraction, really simply, is just what you're thinking about attracts more things that are like that. That's really the simplicity of the law of attraction. It's just a governing rule or law of the universe that says if you're thinking about negative thoughts, you can only attract more thoughts that are kind of like that thought. So that's really all you need to know about the law of attraction, is that if you're thinking about something, that you're going to get thoughts that match that something that are going to be relatively close to that thought that you're thinking. That's really all it is in a nutshell. And one of the things that we want to really start with fundamentally, or the basics of how all of this works, all of this learning how to make a thought become a thing, or learning how to become an intentional or a deliberate manifester, you got to get really clear, is that you're not trying to learn how to manifest. You already know how to manifest. In fact, you manifested yourself being here in this course, which is extremely strong and extremely powerful. What you really need to learn how to manifest is you need to learn how to manifest. And what you want to learn how to manifest is you want to learn how to manifest what you specifically want. That's what we're talking about right here. Not how do I learn how to manifest, or I'm not a good manifester, or I've not been successful at manifesting. Yes, you have. Just look around your life. You've been manifesting all kinds of things. And as even when you were a little kid, you were manifesting things all the time. So it's not first thing to let you get really clear about. It's not that you need to learn how to manifest. It's that you want to learn how to manifest the things that you specifically want. And that's one of the purposes of this course, is that at the end of this course, you're going to have certainty and a knowledge and a knowingness and faith that you have the ability to deliberately and intentionally have a thought about something that you desire, and that thought can be brought into physical manifestation for you to experience. And that's pretty cool if you can actually get that tool. It's going to make you kind of like an avatar. It's going to make you like an avatar. And you're going to feel kind of superpowerish when you start to understand how these laws actually work and how these principles, these governing principles of creation, how they go together. So the fact that you're going to be able to deliberately or intentionally learn how to manifest is one of the pieces that you're going to get. But before we go, there's two fundamental principles that I want to share with you that are extremely important that they go in. It's extremely important that you understand them. It's extremely important that you follow them and you pay attention to them. So there's these two fundamental principles that must be understood primarily before you get started on this work, because if these two principles are not understood, you're going to stay stuck no matter what you do, no matter how far you work, and no matter what you think you're going to do as far as grinding and working hard, and that's just not the way this works. This is not about hard work. This is not about efforting. This is in fact just the opposite of that. Now, these two principles that I want to make sure that you fully understand, that really go in and really not just like in a kind of cursory, passing, glancing kind of way, but in a really make sure that you're paying attention and you've got these two things handled. Number one, first and foremost, is you've got to come to grips with, and you got to be at peace with, and you got to get comfortable with, and you got to make it okay with where you are. Where you are is where you are. I know that sounds very profound, but it's extremely important that you understand where you are is where you are, and then add to that, and it's perfect right where I am. So where you are is where you are, and it's perfect right where you are. Until you get at peace with where you are, you can't move. Because the first law and the first principle that you want to understand, because you're going to hear it over and over and over, is what you resist persists. So anything in your life that you're resisting, it's persisting. You're basically keeping it alive by pushing against it. Your resistance to something and your pushing against something keeps it alive in your life. So step number one, fundamental principle number one, important, fundamental, basic, you got to get this one before you go anywhere. You have to make peace with, and you got to be okay with where you're at. You got to make it perfect. If you don't, what you're going to experience is you're going to experience some excitement and some enthusiasm to get started and move forward. But you're going to, when you take off to run, you're just going to go in a circle because it's going to be like you got a foot nailed to the floor. So that's the first one, is to make peace with where you're at, or get at ease, or get comfortable, or accepting where you're at. And also, wherever you're at is perfect. I've worked with a 74-year-old divorced woman, widowed, no husband, like moving, starting a business that she wanted, a candle business for like forever. And like, it doesn't matter where you are. Wherever you are is really, really perfect. What matters and what is important is that you get started, that you get moving, that you get in the river and start moving downstream. That's really the most important thing. And if you're not at peace with where you're at, and you don't make peace with where you're at and make it okay, and in fact make it perfect, you can't move. You're going to be stuck. The second fundamental piece, which is extremely important, it could be one of the most important, if not the most important things that I practice and do in my life. It's going to sound a little bit Pollyannish. It's going to seem a very, very, very childlike-ish. It's going to be this thing that seems like very dismissive, like that. Yeah, of course, that's what I'll do. But yeah, let's get on with the stuff. How do I make my stuff appear? And that component, or that piece, is to start being kind to yourself. It is so extremely important. I'm going to call it the most subtle secret weapon a man can have at his disposal. And I jokingly say, and I've said this to hundreds of people, and it's gotten a real big laugh quite a few times, and it's really kind of cute and kind of funny, but it kind of leads to, and it kind of resonates with people, and it kind of rings a bell, and it goes like this. If I was being half as rough on you or half as mean to you as you're being to yourself, you'd call the police on me and try to get a restraining order. And that really goes to how rough and how mean and how unkind we are to ourselves. Yeah, continually just slapping ourselves all the time and wondering why we have headaches and why our fingers tingle, And I don't know why. I don't know why I've got a headache, but I've just kind of like, yeah, you get the point. We're really, really rough with ourselves. So it's extremely important. It's extremely important that you become a really, really good friend to yourself. I'm going to recommend the best friend to yourself, but if you can't be the best friend to yourself, you don't need to be your best friend to yourself. You can keep your besties, but become a really, really good friend to yourself. And how that looks and how that sounds in the world is you could start with, yeah, give yourself a hug, right? I bet there hasn't been a time in your total recall, any time in your past, your recent past, that you've given yourself a hug. And really give yourself a hug, like really mean it and give yourself a hug. Get yourself in front of a mirror and sit down and look yourself in the eye and tell yourself how good you've been doing and how far you've come and how proud you are of yourself and where you're headed and how excited you are. Give yourself a pat on the back. Let yourself know you're doing good. Start giving yourself some attaboys. Start giving yourself some, I'm proud of you. I'm so happy we're together. This is going to be so much fun. Start having a conversation with yourself that's based in and sourced from kindness. It's so important. It's so important because I'm going to tell you, everyone, all of us, every single one of us in humanity is generating self talk every day, all day. And what I'm inviting you to do and what I'm telling you to do, and if you take nothing else from anything and you don't watch any more of these training modules, if you become a friend to yourself and you begin to start to appreciate yourself and start to have that inner dialogue that you're originating, you're starting with yourself, your life and your statistics are going to go straight up and vertical. Why? Well, number one, you're going to start feeling better. And you're going to find out and discover that the key to all of this manifestation, this intentional, deliberate manifestation, the key to all of it is how you feel. So we are going to embark on a journey on you starting to feel better than you've ever felt before. And when you start to realize the simplicity of this and the naturalness of this, what you're going to find out is what most people are doing is they're swimming in a sea of confusion and uncertainty, trying to go out online and find more things that are missing that will enable them to be able to create the things they want to be, do, or have. And what I'm telling you, you're going to learn, and you're going to be so excited when you discover this and start to see it showing up in your life, is it's just the opposite. We want to start doing less things. We want to start doing less effort, less hard work. And what we're going to start doing is we're going to start paying attention to what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And we're going to kind of turn this franchise around in short order, in real short order. So you are about to go on and embark on what I think is going to be the most powerful journey, for sure, the most transformational and impactful journey. And when I say transformational, what I'm saying is you're going to now bring forth possibilities and opportunities for yourself that before now were not possible. You didn't even have access to them. They were out there, and you're going to learn more about this kind of fun parallel reality stuff. They were out there and they existed, but you couldn't get access to them because of where you were situated. So if you're still watching this video and you've heard some things that might have resonated with you and you think there might be something possible for you, click down below, get in touch with me, let's have a conversation, and you're going to know immediately whether or not this is a match. And whatever ends up happening is absolutely perfect. But I sure would love to connect with you and just have a conversation. So one of the things that I kind of like to leave this module with and end this conversation with is keep it light. The reason and the only reason, the main reason, the fundamental reason that angels are able to fly, it's because they take themselves so lightly. So my invitation for you is, as you move forward, is to take it really lightly, take it easy. There's enough serious, significant stuff going on the planet. And just remember, the more serious you get, the more resistance you create, the more you push away what the things are that you want. So this is about lightening up. This is about taking it easy. This is about learning how to feel good. This is about learning how to feel better and better and better and better and better. So as you go on this journey, the two things I want to leave you with, three things, let's make it three. Number one is you're great at manifesting. You're as good now at it as you ever have been in your life. And what we're going to show you how to do is how to manifest the things that you want specifically. That's what's missing. Second thing is to make peace with and become cool with and be okay with and make it perfect where you're at. And no matter where you're at, it's perfect because that's where you're at, right? I know that sounds very profound, and you can write that down and hang it on your mirror, but right where you're at is where you're supposed to be, and it's perfect because it's right where you're at, okay? And the third thing is, I want you to really heed this advice and really take this on and take it on like a 6-year-old looking in the mirror that would talk about how handsome and how smart they are and how competent they are and how the girls at school really like them or how the boys at school really like her, and almost very, very Pollyannish about becoming kind to yourself, really becoming kind to yourself, and pay attention all the time as this is going on and how you feel. Um, that's it for this first introduction and overview. And the takeaways from that are those last three that I shared with you there. And I look forward to seeing you in module number 2.